Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome back. This is my presentation for my proposed research methodology. This is my second take because the first time I made it about 11 minutes long, so that's way too long and I'm not going to be doing that. So first off, I'll start off with my old research question. It was, how do consistent reading habits affect employability among 16 to 19-year-old independent school students in the Greater Toronto Area? I did change it. See if you could spot the difference. Boom. How do consistent reading habits affect employability skills among 16 to 19-year-old independent school students in the Greater Toronto Area? Let's now shift gears to three most influential studies and authors on my methodology choice. Number one was Saunders and Zuvel. Number two was Justice et al. Number three was Wilkinson et al. And I'll be elaborating more on them in a sec. So first study was by Saunders and Zuzel. It was titled Evaluating Employability Skills, Employer and Student Perceptions, and it was published in 2010. I won't give you the full summary because it's going to take way too long, but essentially they tried to focus on the different perceptions of employability from both the perspective of an employer as well as students, but I'll be focusing more so on the method. So the method was a questionnaire, and they employed a generic 3-point scale to ask the participants about their perceptions on three different categories of questions in the questionnaire. These categories were number one, personal qualities, number two, core skills, and number three, subject knowledge. And this is all done in the first phase because they divided into two phases. The second phase, which I'll be showing in a second what they did on that one, this one was a bit more vague and it provided a bit more leeway to the respondents. So they filled out the following table right here, and they were told to write down their responses this way rather than providing a verbal response. The data was qualitative, and they interpreted the data using a software called Minitab, which I'll be talking about why I didn't choose this method. Mainly it's because of cost and logistics. Number two, the second study that I'll be focusing on was by Justice et al. And this study was called Library-Based Summer Reading Clubs, Who Participates and Why. It was published in 2013. Essentially, the authors conducted a study, to focus on the demographics and motivators of summer reading program participants in the Columbus metropolitan area because that's where they conducted the research. It was a pretty large sample, about 700 people, 500 youths, and 200 parents and guardians of the youths. They concluded that various socioeconomic factors play a role in determining participation in these programs. As for the method, it was pretty interesting. The research was qualitative, first of all, and the way that they measured the research was by measuring the participants' level of literacy first. So they employed something called the Test of World Reading Efficiency, TOWRE, and I'll be talking about that more later. Some questions that they asked will be included later in the presentation, but the way that they analyzed the answers was by converting them onto a 5 to 6 point scale, and then they presented it. Study number three was by Wilkinson et al., and it was called Reading During Adolescence, Why Adolescents Choose or Do Not Choose Books. It was published in 2020 by Wilkinson et al. Essentially, the paper examined the different factors that influence 15 to 16-year-old adolescents' decision to read or not to read. They mainly found that motivation plays a huge role in reading levels, and they also found some discrepancies based on gender between male and female. They found that females are more likely to read for pleasure than their male counterparts. As for the method, it was pretty concise, and they employed the Braun and Clark 2006 thematic analysis method, which is comprised of 6 simple steps. The research was qualitative and included a rather medium-sized sample of 39 participants. As for my chosen research method, I will be adhering to the Braun and Clark 2006 thematic analysis model. So I'll be including some elements from Justice et al.'s research by asking some questions that adhere to the TOWRE standards. And the reason for this is because I want to make sure that the participants are not just lying when they talk about how many books they've read, because I know some people will probably try to do that because there is a positive connotation associated with the reading. So to mitigate that, I will be going through a TOWRE test with them during the research. Overall, though, my research is going to fall under the category of descriptive research if I were to pick one from the OneNote table that was shown in class, but it's also thematic analysis mainly, which is essentially picking out the general themes. The discipline I'll be following is APA, and I'll be asking 5 to 10 questions to the participants. So you may be wondering how the hell my method will actually work. So I'll be following the 6 steps as outlined by Braun and Clark, as I mentioned. How I interpret the data, well, that is a bit more interesting, and I'll be explaining more in detail on the next slide. After all the data has been compiled and analyzed, I'll be prepared to present the findings and include it in my research. To the right, there's a list of sample questions. I'll note that I specifically included those that are referenced to reading and books, not those on employability. But yeah, there's about 6 right here. You can take a look. Let's move on. So here are the 6 steps as outlined by Braun and Clark. Number 1 is familiarization. This is when you actually conduct the research, when you ask the questions, and I'll be recording the interviews so that I can go back and jot some notes after I've already jotted down my initial notes. Second is the initial code. So when I find the responses, I will be picking out the main messages and we'll essentially make them into codes, which are very general summaries and small numbers of words. Number 3 is initial themes. So this is taking the codes and finding themes that are prevalent amongst all the responses from all the participants. Number 4 is reviewing the themes. So at this point, I'll review the themes and pick out the most pertinent ones that I will continue to work with. Number 5 is naming the themes. This one, again, more specific, and naming the themes, essentially coding the themes. And then number 6, I will report the findings. So how will this work logistically? Just really quickly, I'll talk about ethics. So all the interviews will be conducted in person. It will be comprised of a sample of St. Andrews and St. Anne's students, but the exact sizes will be completely randomized, but I'll cap the number of potential participants at 25 for each school. So what does this mean? For example, if there are 100 St. Anne's students and 50 SAC students that are interested, I will only be able to pick 25 from each school, but ultimately there will be a greater ratio for the SAC students because there's only 50, and for St. Anne's it would be 100 in that situation. But that's basically what I'm trying to say here. With the goal of having a sample of 35 to 40 people in the sample. And then we are very ethical people here, so I'll be providing consent forms to all the participants, and it was attached to my inquiry proposal. So the way that I'll be going about my research is that there will be QR codes I'll be creating, mass Edsby message will be sent out, and I will be talking to some people that may be interested in the library and whatnot. So they'll have to fill out a preliminary form, Google Forms or Microsoft Forms, and they'll just be asked to, if they fall within the age range and if they are interested in being interviewed. And then for potential challenges, I'll go over this really quickly. Some people may be unavailable. I'll try to do that over Zoom if they can interview. If not, then I'll find someone else. The second one is age issues. If they don't fall within the age range, then they will not be able to participate. Third one is if they don't sign the consent form, they will not be able to participate if they don't. And the respondents, if I have a lack of respondents, then I will have another strategy, which is that I will extend my research to non-independent school students so that I have a larger group of people that I can access. So how will I analyze the data? This is where it gets a bit more tricky, but I will be using the Braun and Clark thematic analysis method of analyzing data. So the analysis portion will primarily be done in steps 5 and 6. As for how I know if the study was a success, it's very simple. If I find that the respondents point to similar skills and levels of reading as existing literature, and if there's overlap, this will suggest that there are a series of skills that are consistent reading habits develop. So what would the data tell us? So unfortunately, correlation does not imply causation. There's no way that I could say that the reason why employee reading skills are developed among certain individuals is because of their consistent reading habits. But the data will also tell us if the skills developed through consistent reading habits are similar to those in the context of employability. So what are the implications of my research and why the hell should you care? Through my research, with the help of my findings, will hopefully provide future researchers with a comprehensive framework on how to proceed if they are to further elaborate on this topic. If the research is successful, the results will help highlight the benefits of reading as it produces skills that are quintessential in the workplace. I understand that there may be broad implications. Sample size is one. Broad limitations. Sample size is one, and I may not have enough participants, but I have already provided a solution, which is extending the amount of people I have access to. Influence is another one. Who the hell would believe me? I'm just a 17-year-old student in high school. But my hope is that through very thorough research, I will be able to convince people that this is a true study. Lastly, will some people question the credibility of my research? Yes. But it's my job to have a strong method that will mitigate all these issues so that they do not have any questions. Thank you for watching, and make sure to subscribe to Politics Can on YouTube.